today. Thank you so much for tuning in and for choosing to spend some of your time with me. I'm Maria Milagros, and during this month, we are talking about peace. And I wanted to share this from a very young age because of everything that was happening in my life and how difficult and chaotic my childhood was. I had a desire and a yearning for peace, obviously, because when we don't have peace, we want peace. And when we're not happy, we want to be happy, right? And I really believed that I was not worthy of peace, that I wasn't deserving. Like my people, my family, my community, we were not deserving and worthy of this thing called peace, to experience peace in our own inner world or to experience peace in the outer world. And I really wholeheartedly believe that. And then as I went through this kind of spiritual evolution and I started to understand more about my connection to my source, I realized that whereas when I was younger, I used to think if I did experience peace, it was so brief that it felt like a tease or a trick just to remind you about what you can't have. Haha. And then as I got older, I realized it was when I was able to hold space for peace to settle that peace would join me, right? It's not something that you can go and find. It's something that we create space for. And like I talked about in the previous videos, I found peace when I was able to acknowledge that life is full of ebb and flow. That is life, right? There is constantly this ebb and flow. It's not just peace all the time. If it was, you'd be bored out your mind. Tell the truth. I would. If everything was ease and there was no problems to solve and no obstacles to overcome and no challenges to creatively work through, no evolution, no growth, no expansion, we would lose our minds, right? So when I recognized life is this kind of ebb and flow and peace can exist in all of it, that was blah. And as I talked about in the previous videos, right, when we can cultivate spaces that can allow peace to reside when we become aware, when we ask ourselves questions like, is this worthy of my peace? Am I willing to give my most precious and valuable assets, my time and energy, to this thing? And then making decisions accordingly. When we decide where we're going to put our energy and we kind of create safeguards around harnessing our peace, right? I don't know how else to say that. When we accept what is and we're mindful about the present moment, when we learn how to mind our business, all of these things create spaces that continue to cultivate peace. And the one thing that I want to just suggest for this week is to be consistent as much as possible. Initially, it's going to take a little more time, but over time, you will learn to be more consistent in creating space so that you can cultivate. And you can cultivate space where peace can reside, right? Because in our consistency is where we start off with this little bit of space right here, and then that becomes this, and that becomes, and it grows and grows, and then it is us, and then we can reside in this space of inner peace here, which then trickles out and affects every area of our life for the better. Every relationship, every interaction, everything that we do for the better. And it's not something that's once you experience peace, you have it forever and always. You can always go back to creating a space that allows peace to reside, but life does ebb and flow, and it's not forever and always. It's a practice. It's a required practice, right? And I recognize this is not for everybody because some people are going to listen to this and what are you talking about? Go back to the beginning of the month. Start there. So for anybody else, right, cultivating this practice. So I wanted to share the story. There was an experiment that was done, and they had these two really huge boulders that were pretty much the same size, diameter, width, weight, blah, blah, blah. And they decided with one of these boulders, they were going to crack it in half by using one single drop of water over and over and over in the same spot. And the other boulder, they were going to get a really strong person who was used to using a jackhammer and was really skilled in cracking open boulders, and the jackhammer and the equipment and the materials and the tools and the bits, for the jackhammer. and they were going to have that person do that, right? So when the experiment was all said and done, it took several years for the drop of water to split the boulder. And it took several, I think it was hours or days, I'm going to say days, to break open that other huge boulder with the jackhammer. And they had to replace bits and stuff. What they realized, though, was at the end of the years, when the experiment was over and the water had finally broken the brick, it had broken it open, the boulder, there was no residual damage other than the boulder from the soft, consistent, repetitive action of the water. And from the other one, which felt very forced and intentionally, it was like very forced. We're getting this boulder. We're going to crack this boulder open. They broke bits. They used time, energy, money, resources, electricity. The guy who was doing it ended up suffering a shoulder injury like a year or two later. That was the residual effect of the jackhammer. And the foundation underneath the boulder had begun to crack and splay. All of that from forcing something that could have been done very soft, very ease, very delicately, consistently over time. So I think about this story when I think about my own inner peace, because a lot of times we want to hurry up and get there. And that's not really what this practice is about. It's about consistent ease and creating spaces of ease, creating spaces of joy, creating spaces of love so that we can attain what we want to attain without having to create residual damage, right? There's this great quote by the late Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said, when we are mindful, deeply in touch with the present moment, our understanding of what is going on deepens, and we begin to be filled with acceptance, joy, peace, and love. And that's really how we do it. We do it in the present moment consistently, over and over and over. Is this worth my peace? Am I minding my business? Am I accepting what is? Am I being present? Am I being mindful? Right? So we can cultivate a space where peace can reside. That's all I have. Consistency. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know how to reach me. I'm sending you love and light and peace, and there's nothing you could do about it. Peace!